moving back to the design part, now that the majority of the vehicle is more or less blocked out, I'm moving back to the front view to try and get that front plate sorted. Originally, I think it was uh, kind of like a flat plane with the round holes in there, and I decided to step away from that. So here I'm trying to see if I can come up with something that suits the design. And what I'm trying to do here is to see what shapes would actually catch the lighting in an interesting way that looks cool, aggressive, dynamic, and suits the art direction of this vehicle. So you can see me trying a bit more round shapes, a bit more angular shapes, flat shapes, etc., etc. Just nothing special here. I'm just basically playing with it. You could do an overpaint in Photoshop for this part, but I prefer to do this in 3D directly because I can just very quickly test it from multiple angles. Because again, it can look good from one angle and then it looks weird from the other angle, or you check with the lighting and it doesn't really look that good. So sometimes you can solve it in 2D, sometimes you can solve it in 2D. If I can fix some of these design issues or find solutions directly in 3D, I prefer that. Mostly because that way I kind of train myself to solve those problems within the, I guess, 3D space. And the more I do that, I find the quicker I become with coming up with those solutions. But again, you need to be very mindful of what and when to use in these situations. So yeah, in this part, mostly just working on that front plane, nothing too crazy. Adding a little bit more detail to it because it's kind of like a forward facing part of the design, and like I mentioned before, I was very focused on the front part of the truck and I wanted to make sure it looks uh good. So yeah, putting a little bit more effort into it and adding a little bit more details than I would normally do. Again, strategically making that decision when to do that, when to not do that, and which parts deserve that certain attention at that time. Practice that, you'll get better at it. And towards the end here, I've started focusing on the part of the designs that I usually enjoy the least, and it's the, in my opinion, the most boring part of the design. It's not the most time consuming, but it can be very time consuming. It's the stuff like suspension, the underside. It's the things that need to be there, that need to be figured out to have the full effect of the final design. But I find them very often uncreative, and you can make them interesting. You can absolutely spend time and come up with like a brand new, you know, suspension system, or like, I don't know, cool mechanics for that. You can do that if you want, but like I mentioned before, with managing kind of like the energy that you have to spend on a design, unless it's a key part of the design, I wouldn't do that. So here I defaulted to my default very basic suspension rig. I will do a separate video explaining how I set this up. It's not super complex, but the key part here is, yeah, usually I only get to this part once I'm happy with the overall design. I see a lot of people, again, when they start doing vehicles especially, they completely design the underside, like the frame, the suspension, everything is like meticulously modeled and meticulously designed. And then I look at what sits on that frame and it doesn't match the effort. A lot of the times it feels like stuff is mismatched. So you have this very figured out suspension bits and wheels and all that, but your actual overall design is not really there. So I would advise against going straight into these seemingly exciting parts. And they're exciting because they're very obvious. You can very easily find cool suspension references, get excited about it, and start working on it because you can have a direct visual reference of what it would look like when it's done. Whereas, let's say the actual vehicle, you don't have a direct reference of the final result, or you might not have it as close. So you kind of default to the fun looking, exciting things that you can see will look good in the end rather than doing the crucial parts. So yeah, that's a bit about the suspension here. And again, I'll do the separate video explaining how I set it up in Blender specifically. So it's going to be a bit more on the technical side rather than the creative side.